What's up, Airsofters? This is Mobius1 from Paradox Airsoft. This is Sergeant Miller, or as his friends call him, Sergeant, and we're here talking about airsoft guns. We're just going to be going over some different types of guns, the prices for the different guns, but first we got to talk about some terms, otherwise we might as well be speaking Russian to you. So let's get started. So first off, we got FPS. All right, FPS is an airsoft gun fires a 6mm BB. FPS means feet per second. The feet per second is how many feet per second your BB travels after exiting the barrel. We'll talk about a little later about what different FPSs you should have for different kinds of guns. One thing that a lot of you might think, and is not true at all, is that FPS transfers to range. You would think that the faster your BB goes, the farther it goes, but that is definitely not true, and we will get into why exactly that is, again, a little bit later. Range itself is how far your BB goes after exiting the barrel. That's just how far can it make it at, perfect angle, perfect wind, everything, before it hits the ground. Effective range is another term that is commonly used. Effective range is how far your BB can go and accurately hit your target. So, for example, I have a Dragunov sniper rifle, which we will be talking about a little bit later, that has an effective range of 180 feet, which means that the BB will travel 180 feet and I can still consistently hit a man-sized target every shot. One of the things that transfers to that accuracy is the hop-up of the gun. Hop-up is a term that is very widely used. Basically, your gun has a hop-up unit inside of it, and what it does is it applies a little bit of backspin onto the BB. Like when you're bowling and you throw the ball, and the professional bowlers all have it go out and it curves to hit the pins right. Or a baseball pitcher will throw a curveball, will go out and hook to the side. The backspin on the BB basically keeps it flying in a straight line. That fights gravity. Instead of you just having to aim up and shoot the BB up and have it come down on your target, the backspin keeps it basically just traveling in a straight line for you. Next up, Sergeant Miller is going to go over something.
So the next one is safety. I like to use that a lot, especially when I'm close quarter combat, because sometimes you get a guy that comes around, might be your guy. It's happened before. So yeah, and also safeties are great for when you store them. Not to have them cocked, no ammo in them, just for a safety purpose. So obviously, most safeties are on towards the trigger area. So for example, on my 1911, I have my safety right here. Obviously, you're going to hear it click. So safety will prevent you from shooting your bullet, which is very important.
Very important.
And when you take apart your gun, don't take them out.
Yeah, leave the safeties in. Next up, the magazine. The magazine is what holds your BBs. That's what keeps your BBs ready to shoot. Each time you cycle your gun, or depending on what kind of gun you have, it might do it for you. Each time you cycle it, it loads a new BB to be fired.
Another magazine also would be the M16 Mag 2.
There are different kinds of magazines. That is a high cap magazine, or that's what it's called anyways, which basically means that, first of all, it holds a large amount of BBs. You actually have a winding wheel on the bottom, and what you do is you wind that wheel and it cycles new BBs into the chamber for you.
Yeah, like this one, it's right on the bottom of it, so it makes a cycling noise.
Right.
So
then you also have your low cap or mid cap, which has a spring in it. And this spring, basically you load your BBs in the top, spring pushes them out. It's very simple and straightforward. Another kind of magazine is the shotgun shell. Those are commonly used in tri-shots, which we will also talk about later. Magazines, for all you Call of Duty players, are not clips. They are not called clips. Clips are disposable. You put your clip in, you run out of ammo, you take it, you leave it on the battlefield, you're done. You can't do that with airsoft guns, or else you're constantly having to go out and buy new mags. So They are magazines. They are not disposable. You reload them.
Yeah, I used to play Call of Duty. I quit for a number of reasons. Also to help me. Remember, it's a magazine. But I had a friend of mine who also made sure I didn't call it a quit. And until I got that right, I kept getting it upside the head. And eventually got it in the face with a try shot. No lie. So, with that being said, you say clip, you're getting shot. So, don't call it a clip. Just want to set that
straight.
Yeah, set that straight.
Next up, we got the trigger. Trigger. Most people should know what a trigger is. It's the piece on the gun that you pull when you cock your gun, pull the trigger, and it allows the BB to be fired. Next up, you have the orange tip. It is, to make it legally allowed to sell airsoft guns, you need to have an orange tip on the front of your barrel to prevent people from mistaking it for a real firearm.
Now this here is illegal. You do not see an orange tip. So, in order, if you did make that mistake, another thing you could do is put some orange tape on it, or put some yellow tape on it. Something that gives it a distinct look from a real one. So
there are multiple people who are actually either arrested or, in some extreme cases, even shot by police officers who are inquiring as to the nature of the gun. They don't have an orange tip on it, and the cops don't know. The person pulls out the gun, acts like they're going to show it to them, but they're pointing it at them because they don't have any proper training. They point the gun. The cop has no choice. He's under duress. He has to shoot. Keep your orange tips on your guns. If you buy a gun from the UK, anywhere in England it is actually illegal for you to own an actual firearm, which means that their airsoft guns do not come with orange tips on them because they don't have to. You know, there's nobody who's allowed to own a regular gun to begin with, so nobody would mistake you for having a real gun. Assuming that you buy a gun from the UK, and the UK does have some very good guns, they don't always import them with the orange tips. If that's the case, I would strongly recommend putting some sort of orange tip, whether it be duct tape or even just, Sharpie if you can. Make an orange tip of some sort. Spray paint it on, whatever. Up next, we're just going to cover a little bit of basic theory on how airsoft guns work. This is my forte. A lot of what I do deals with the internals of the guns and the functioning of the guns. So basically what happens, and I'm going to use this as an example, you have your magazine, you have your BBs in your magazine, insert the magazine into the gun and cock it. In doing that, there is a piston in there that goes into a cylinder, and basically what's going to happen is that's going to push that piston back and lock it behind the trigger. Now, when you pull the trigger, that's going to allow the piston to snap forward again. It's powered by a spring, except for some cases, which we will go over. That compressed air then shoots the BB out the end of the barrel. It's a pretty straightforward system, which is why a lot of people are into upgrading and modifying their guns. And we're going to do a separate video, actually, just all about the fixing, the modifying, the upgrading, all that fun stuff. But don't do it if you're just getting into airsoft. Be familiar with your gun.
Yes. Some type of guns that we're going to go over in this video. Some of these terms are very major because there's a difference between AEG and a GBB or a MBB. So starting off, spring, pretty simple. Spring pistol. You've got your spring shotgun. We wouldn't be considering there's such thing, as obviously of a spring sniper rifle, but we are not going to call it a spring. We're just, we're going to call it a sniper rifle. So the next thing also is an AEG, which is a battery an advanced electric battery, which may go in different spots. May go here, or may go in your stock. So this is an AEG, a blowback, which requires gas. There are two different types of blowbacks. There's a blowback, and then there's a non-blowback. Obviously, non-blowback means the slide does not come back when shot. Blowback means the slide comes back and forward. But a blowback basically can be a CO2 or green gas. CO2 and green gas are two different things. CO2 is a canister. It's a small silver canister that gets loaded in your mag, and then you load up your magazine. Green gas, and there's other types of gas to get. But green gas basically is like a propane tank that you fill your magazine with. They're a lot easier to fill and more gas. So, and they're for CO2 and gas, green gas, they can both be blowback or not. Another one, which is EBB, which is electric blowback, meaning that it requires an electric battery for your pistol. So some Springer terms, or spring terms, like this gun, pump, actually, which would be for your shotgun, is when you cock the gun like so, like this. Another one, which is a bolt. We will show you those when we pull out our sniper rifles for showing you types of guns to buy later on. Bolt, which is one of the main pieces to loading your rifle, sniper rifle. Slide, which is mainly used only on pistols, which is the top of the gun here, which you cock, which is this, top of the slide here. Some AEG terms, basically some internal parts, is called a gearbox, which we might be taking apart later, maybe when we go into the types of guns.
Yeah, the gearbox, basically how an AEG works is that the gearbox, the battery, which the battery has nothing to do with the FPS, by the way. The battery is just how fast the gun can shoot. The battery has a motor that's attached to it, and it turns a set of gears, and those gears actually wind the cylinder back for you, or the piston back for you, instead of you having to pull it back yourself. What you can do with those gears is a thing called shimming your gears. Those gears have holes through the center of them. They sit on that gearbox. Shimming the gearbox basically means inserting, basically they're small metal washer-like objects, and you put them in underneath the gear, and you can actually raise and lower the height of your gears, which makes them mesh better and basically gives you a lot cleaner performance, and they last quite a bit longer. However, when you buy an AEG from the store, it will probably be shimmed properly. So you don't really need to do that unless you intend on modifying your AEG gearbox, or if the gearbox breaks, you might need to reshim it. ROF is just a term people commonly use for rate of fire. How many BBs per second your airsoft gun can fire. Usually that's only really a big deal on AEGs, is when that's most commonly used, which can go full auto.
So, front and rear wire basically is the way your battery is wired, just like a car. So, for example, some cars can have their battery in the front of the car where the engine is, or in the trunk, which were a lot of the older versions of cars. But like I was showing you earlier, front wire to rear wire. Front wire could mean where your technical rail is, so it comes off, and then you've got your battery in there. Mine is actually in the rear, which I love these because they, a lot of the times when you have batteries in the front here, your barrel can get bent from trying and open it so many times, putting pressure on it. With this, the batteries in your stock, which we might go over later, And actually, there are batteries, just like his AK, which are right where the gearbox is, right in the center. So those are different types of
wiring.
Batteries.
And when you have that battery in the front, it gets kind of heavy up there.
Yes,
doesn't
it gets very heavy. So that's why when I acquired my automat or my AEG, I wanted mine in stock to keep everything level. Just because you already have your heavy barrel, your tactical stuff up there, and your magazine, your gearbox, so it all just kind of levels everything out, which is one of the reasons why I got it.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to snap the gun up
yes,
too. And
especially in CQB.
So in dealing with the battery, you also have what is called a MOSFET. Now, a MOSFET is an acronym for a small piece of electronic circuitry which actually goes in your AEG, and basically what it does is it regulates how much power goes from your battery to your gearbox for each shot. It keeps your shots quite a bit more consistent, and it also tends to extend the life of your battery quite a bit. Also, one of the really cool things you can do with MOSFETs is program them. It allows you to replicate a real gun in the sense that real guns that have maybe a 3-round burst, so you pull the trigger and hold it, it shoots 3 rounds, but it won't keep shooting after that. You have to let it go and re-pull the trigger. You can actually program that into your gun, even if it doesn't come with that. Finally, also dealing with the battery, a PEC box or PEQ box. This is something that actually mounts on your rail on your gun, and it's an external battery. Instead of being held inside the gun, it's outside. It allows you to switch out your battery much quicker, and it also allows you to position it wherever you want. Frequently, a PEQ box will actually have a laser pointer built into it when you buy it, which makes it really easy to aim.
Some people, what they'll do is, instead of buying one of those things, they will take their stock off and literally take their battery and attach it and literally strap it to the side. One extreme reason why you do not do that, especially because, well, actually a couple. One, of getting it wet, because most of the time this, stock and everything else helps keep the rain or, water out of it or mud. And also, it, if you have it on the outside, it has, might short out or get damaged from the force on the outside of the gun from either laying on the ground, crawling, something, you know what I mean?
You don't want to knock it loose hitting it on something. So, and having seen this battery, this is what's called a butterfly type or nunchuck type battery, obviously because it looks kind of like a nunchuck. You have your two grips and your rope in between, in this case, the wiring of the battery. There are different types of battery. We have the nunchuck battery or butterfly type here. My AK-47 takes a stick type battery, which is basically just a really long stick. The batteries come with different types and different powers, as well as different configurations. So you have the NIMH, or nickel metal hydride. That's your standard battery that you're going to buy with an AEG. They come in 8.4 volts, which is usually the stock battery.
Yeah, this is the one I've got. It's an 8.4. The difference is they actually show you the thing that holds the voltage. This one has 3 cylinder things that hold the voltage. The other one, which is a 9.6, also looks like this, but it's actually got a red color to it, and it's got one more, which actually increases the rate of fire. Not so much the FPS, just more rate of fire. I would suggest the 8.4 for a couple of reasons, just because your battery lasts longer, and the 9.4 actually wears down your gears really quick. So,
yeah, particularly if you've got just a stock gun, the 9.6 is going to take away a whole lot of your gearbox. That faster spinning is going to wear down those metal teeth. Even if it is a metal gearbox, which means that the gears inside are made of metal, it'll still wear it down a bit quicker. Speaking of wearing stuff down, we have LiPo or lithium polymer batteries. Those are special. I would suggest, particularly if you're a beginner, don't use LiPos. They're very they can be a bit finicky. They're despite the fact they come in 7.4 volt and 11.1 volt. Despite the fact that you hear 7.40, it's lower voltage than the 8.4 volt nickel metal hydride. It still puts a heck of a lot of wear on your gears. Reason being, despite it being a lower voltage, the way the power is delivered still results in a much higher shock value to your gearbox. The other thing about LiPo batteries is if you've got a full auto gun that can also do semi-auto, if you play on semi-auto, which I almost always play on semi-auto, if you do what I do, which is to pull your trigger really fast, just high speed bursts of fire, the LiPo battery will actually fry the contact pad between your trigger and your gearbox. Black smoke. It's gonna leave a boatload of scorch marks. It's pretty nasty stuff to have to deal with. You're gonna have to replace those trigger contacts. Just not good. That being said, you can play on full auto with a LiPo. If you play on full auto only, you have an incredibly high rate of fire, particularly with the tough, good metal gearboxes. They shoot incredibly fast. You've got a laser stream of BBs coming out the end of your gun. It's pretty incredible to go up against, actually. Moving on. Green gas, or gas gun terms. Green gas, one of the two things that can power your gun, either the green gas or the CO2. Mm-hmm. Green gas is basically propane with lubricant in it. Mm-hmm. The lubricant keeps, particularly with gas guns, this is one thing that you have to watch, they dry out and they grate against themselves because that metal slide on the outside gets water in it, can get particles like sand in it if you're playing in more of a desert environment. It grates on itself. It looks pretty bad when you take it apart because it's going to be all scraped up and stuff on the inside.
Yeah.
The green gas basically puts in that lubricant for you. CO2 doesn't need any lubricant. It's a little higher pressure than green gas, but it's a lot harder to refill your mag on the field. Propane is green gas without the lubricant. Pretty straightforward. It goes in your grill. It goes on like a blowtorch. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Like go out to Walmart.
Well, something I used to have a blowback, which we will get to later on. The type one I had, but mine was actually full metal, and I had a green gas with propane. Now propane, like he said, there's actually the propane does not have a silicon that will silicone your gun, or
lube it up.
Yeah, lube it up. And so what you need to do is use some of that silicone. I believe it's a spray.
Yeah, it's a spray.
You can not a lot. You'll need a quick spray right by the trigger mech, and maybe in the slide. Because when I used to have mine, I just used propane, and I ended up having some technical difficulties. Well, not tech, but gun problems. It wasn't firing. Slide was sticking. So if you're using propane, make sure you have a silicone. If you're using green gas, it actually has a silicone in it, but you end up using your green gas can more than you do your propane. So they trade off one another when it comes to having to get things, because you have to buy more green gas than you do propane. So
green gas is also a bit more expensive. I would just buy the propane and buy your spray can. And
another thing about propane, you have to have a propane adapter. They make plastic ones. Those aren't too bad. I suggest, if you have the money, get the metal version of them. The only problem is you have to, once in a while, silicone them because they will stick because, obviously the propane is cold. So they will stick once in a while, and I actually made a mistake. You have to have, obviously, the propane tank upside down to fill them so the propane will fill. It's another thing.
Yeah, so blowback and non-blowback, obviously, if it's blowback, the slide kicks. Feels really cool to shoot, uses a little bit more of your gas, so your mag doesn't last quite as long. Non-blowback, slide doesn't blow back, you don't rack your slide when you load your mag. The gas lasts a bit longer, it's a bit more efficient that way.
Mm-hmm.
Still feels pretty cool, but that feel of that slide kicking back and that recoil is really fun. And then silicone oil, obviously we've already talked about. Usually comes in like a little white spray can. You just take it, even not on a gas gun. I have my Dragunov sniper rifle that I have. I'll lube up the bolt mechanism, makes it a little bit easier to pull back, and keeps all of my parts cycling.